Challenge Joe Biden, and you're a racist. Democrat Dean Phillips learning that lesson the hard way after launching his campaign against the big guy. South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn doing Joe's dirty work and accusing Phillips of disrespecting African Americans, saying, quote, black voters are an essential piece of the Democratic coalition, and any candidate for president of the United States ought to know and respect their pivotal role in how Democrats win national elections. There's too much at stake to pay attention to this kind of silliness. Now, that's got to sting. Phillips trying to smooth things over with Clyburn, but the damage has been done.
I'm disappointed. Mr. Clyburn, a man I admire and respect, knows better. And that's exactly the political conversation that is dividing the country right now. Those who are participating in dividing by casting blame and shadow on people like me, that's part of the problem. I have respect for Mr. Clyburn, but I think that's exactly what's wrong.
Do you think everything's cool now?
You mean between Dean Phillips and Jim
between
Clyburn?
all of us, you know, the blacks and the whites.
Look, I've known Jim Clyburn a really long time, and he's a dear friend. He's one of the guys that I think that doesn't always inject race into things. I do think that I hope he and Dean Phillips get together and figure this out. And I hope one of the things you have to do if you're going to run for president, you got to have a vision, you got to have a message, you got to have an agenda, you got to be able to connect with voters, you got to be able to raise money. And black voters are the most reliable voters in the Democratic Party, and frankly, the ones that have straightened us out when it looked like someone to take us too far left. We got Biden and Clinton because black voters said, hey, you can't go too far to the left. South Carolina's first. I think people in New Hampshire are upset about that. If I were Dean Phillips, I get the political strategy. You go to a place where the president won't show up and where people are angry with him. But both of them can be right. I don't think that Dean Phillips, I don't know him. He doesn't strike me as a guy where race it preoccupies his mind. He strikes me as a guy that's pursuing a political strategy. But I got a message for him, too. You won't be president. You won't get the Democratic nomination if black voters don't know you and don't understand what you want to do, not only for them, but for the country.
Because
so hopefully they can sit down and figure this out.
Dana, does it show that maybe Joe's not as strong as he should be if his guy Clyburn's dealing with someone that's polling at less than 1%?
Joe Biden is definitely not as strong as he should be going into re-election at this point. That does not look good. Kellyanne can speak to that a little bit more with more authority than I can, but as she pointed out, he's at 22% approval rating on an issue like immigration in the tank on. There's no issue that I think that he's positive on, except for possibly the Ukraine war, but that's at 52%. So the other problem is Joe Biden let his campaign people try to run roughshod over New Hampshire without working it out first. And now they are set up for embarrassment. That's just the way they work. There was not a way for them to stop New Hampshire from being the first primary in the nation. There wasn't a legal apparatus to do that. They didn't set it up. So now they are in a position where New Hampshire's like, no, we are going first. Biden chose this fight, and he looks like he's going to lose it.
Greg, I know you've been following this very closely.
This is the first time I've ever heard of Dean Phillips. What college does he run? Look, when someone calls you racist, it's not about a debate. It's designed to make you retreat, to scare you. It's the basis for every pernicious ill that is plaguing America today. You want to reduce crime? You're racist. You want a strong border? You're racist. You want school choice? You must be racist. You want to end homelessness? Racist. So it's just, and in fact, that actual activity preserves racism because it actually hurts the minorities that the person screaming racism claims to protect. So he just wanted to scare this guy away. That's all it is. And how can you be racist by challenging a white president? A white president who attended the funeral of a KKK leader? A white president who said to blacks, you ain't for Joe, you ain't black if you ain't for Joe, or whatever that is. I agree. He knows better. Ooh, see, I said it.
That is so racist.
That is so racist.
Kellyanne.
Here are some facts. Joe Biden came in 5th in New Hampshire. He got 8% of the vote last time. He's not even on the ballot this time. He's a sitting president. He came in 4th in Iowa, got 16% of the vote there. And then he went to South Carolina and won because Congressman Chairman Clyburn helped him do that and supported him. But by Congressman Clyburn's own definition, Joe Biden's a racist. Why did he run in 2020 when he got in a black man's way, Cory Booker, a black and Indian woman's way, Kamala Harris? Is he a homophobe because he got in the way of our first would-be openly gay president, Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete? He was even Joe Biden in running as the white, cisgender, liberal, rich guy. He got in the way of the American Samoan in the race and just As a reminder, that was Tulsi Gabbard, not Elizabeth Warren. So he even got in the way of Julian Castro. Who's that? A Hispanic man who ran for president. So by Clyburn's own definition, Joe Biden is racist for running. I think the biggest problem is not Dean Phillips. I think the biggest problem is that an increasing number of non-college educated, non-white voters are migrating to the Republican Party. And they're doing that because of the economy. They're doing that because of the border. They're doing that because of law enforcement. They're also doing it because of education, school choice, and charters. And also they're doing it because of the open hostility toward religion by this Democratic Party. It's a big mistake for the Democrats to do that. But the biggest problem is not Dean Phillips. It's that Joe Biden is going to have a very hard time inspiring 81 million voters again.
Can I just say, I agree with everything you said.
Harold's going to declare. Go!
No, I think Clyburn's only point is that Congressman Phillips should come to South Carolina and campaign with black voters. I think that's his only point, and that's why.
When are you going to declare, Harold? Stop it!
His big point was that somebody else shouldn't be running and exposing the fact that your party that used to elevate and elect young outsiders like Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton are now stuck with a guy who's every minute of 80.
What will Clyburn say about Newsom? I wait.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.